Retire on 0.1 Bitcoin. How to retire on 0.1 Bitcoin? This is what we're gonna look at today. Welcome to all my favorite people out there. We're gonna look into this chart over here, and this is a three PDF I prepared. I prepared one for the case for 1 Bitcoin, for 0.5 Bitcoin, and 0.1 Bitcoin. So we're gonna start with the 1 Bitcoin over here. So the way Bitcoin growth is the Bitcoin growth is a compounding growth. So once you put the calculation on compounding, for for 1 Bitcoin over here, we can see how long it's gonna take to be at $1 million, for example. So most people look at themselves being able to retire at a million. And why I take the million? I know it may not be for most people, but the majority of the people out there on the world will be able to retire on $1 million. And not only that, when I say $1 million, because $1 million is 10 times 100,000, right? A million is 10 times 100,000. So when you have 10 times that, so you pretty much you could most people can live in 50,000 a year, right? So basically that will give you about 20 years of life, right? Of living, right? Expense, you know, um, payment. So when you look at it this way, but not only this, the Bitcoin price will still grow when you're using the money. So let's say you're using the 50,000 a year, you're paying some taxes on that, right? You do your expenses and all that. So the rest you're gonna leave. Like let's say for the first 2 years you're using 100,000. So the other 900,000 is still on the Bitcoin network. It's still on Bitcoin. It's still growing on 50,000 on 50% a year, 40 to 50% a year. So what I did basically, I take the price of Bitcoin around approximately 100,000. So let's give or take, right? So I take the approximate price, right? And then I say, okay, let's be conservative. Let's go on at 40% a year, right? Um, so how long did it take us to be at a million? So what I saw it was at a 40% a year. At this price, it's gonna take 6 years. 6 years, it's gonna be over a million. Let's say a million 89,000, a million 90,000. So that's the number we're getting, right? So it's gonna take us 6 years, right? 6 years over a year. It's gonna take 6 years, and then, by the way, when you're saving, let's say you put in $100,000 on Bitcoin right now, right? So I put in a number. I put $100 a month. So that's a DCA. For people who don't know what DCA means, that means you're accumulating every month, right? Doesn't matter what the price is, you're just accumulating. Right? You're putting some money away for your retirement, for your financial future. So this $100 accumulate compounds as well, right? Over that 1 Bitcoin. So over 6 years, you end up with pretty much more Bitcoin, right? And then the value of those Bitcoin is grown tremendously, right? So that's for 1 Bitcoin, right? So I promised for I said I was gonna do for 1 Bitcoin, 0.5 Bitcoin, and 0.1 Bitcoin. So because you guys are very wonderful, so I'm gonna go over the 0.5 as well. So for 0.5 Bitcoin, I take 50,000 for the current price, right? That could be like the give or take, right? Give or take. And let's say now that 50,000, it's gonna be about 100,000 a month, right? You put in, right, for this year, And then when I go down, when you go down here, I put it 45% a year, right? So 45% a year in average. It takes me, it's gonna be almost 2 million, right? It's gonna be $1.8 million, right? In simply 8 years, just 8 years. So most people will be able to make it just 6 years would be fine, right? 6 years would be fine. Um, 6 7 years would be fine, in my opinion, right? So 6 7 years would be fine with half a Bitcoin to retire. So that would put you at these numbers, a million, right? So amazing. One thing I need to mention here, most of the growth, right? The like the biggest growth happens in the last years, right? The last years, like for example, it takes you 6 years to be around 800,000, right? Let's say, yeah, around 7 to 800,000. It takes you 6 years, and in the next 2 years, you made all the rest of the money, right? You made $1 million in the next 2 years. So that's what compounding growth looks like, right? Like most of the exponential, like, profit happens, I realized, in the last years, in the last few years, right? So, and again, your money is still compounding, right? So let's say you have $1 million by then, right? By the in this 6 years or 7 years, you put in the half a Bitcoin. That $1 million, that million, $1.8 million, you're taking, let's say, 50,000 a year. The rest is compounding, is growing, right? So yes, you're gonna pay some taxes as well, right? So you should pay your taxes, but even though the rest of the money is compounding over time, so that's like the magic. That's magic on Bitcoin. It's like it's so powerful, right? The growth. Now, let's say you don't have that much money. You can't get to half a Bitcoin. It's way out of reach for you. Let's say you go with 0.1 Bitcoin, right? So that's for the plebs out there. Let's say we only have we only can afford 0.1 Bitcoin now. It's about 10,000, give or take. Could be more or high, more or less, depending on when you're watching this video. Now, let's say you go with that, right? 10,000, same thing, $100 a month, right? Now we end up same year. We're gonna end up in $1 million. That $1 million gonna take us 10 years to get there. Now people say, "Oh, that's 10 years. That's a long time." Well, think about it. Like 2014, right? Wasn't too long ago, right? I can still remember, like, things that happened in 2014, right? So if you plan on having a kid, right? Maybe you don't want to save for retirement. Maybe you just want to save for your future kids, right? In 10 years, it's gonna look like nothing, right? You're gonna look back in 2034. You're gonna realize, like, wow, that was nothing, right? That just, like, it passed like a flash, right? And the calculation of these numbers, what I'm doing here, let's say $1 million in 10 years, $1 million, like in dollar term, is not gonna be worth that much, like, as of today. Today you can, yeah, you can afford, like, quite a bit on Bitcoin, but this $1 million, that means it's on dollar term of today, not in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, right? Maybe this Bitcoin go even faster, right? Depending on how fast the dollar is falling in value, right? So maybe Bitcoin goes up. Maybe it's in 10 years, your 0.1 Bitcoin get you to $5 million, right? So we don't know yet, but it's all depend on the how much damage that happened to the dollar, right? How much it's fallen in value, right? So That's the idea here. So I'm just putting this out there. Just you can do it yourself. You can do those calculation yourself. And one other thing to keep in mind is that most of the growth happened in the last few years. So, and I did the same experiment. Um, the bonus I want to give on this video. This is the same experiment I did. I take the current that's about 0.1 Bitcoin right now, 9,700, and I put it over 20 years. Okay, so let's say you extend your time horizon for longer. Let's say you double that to 10 years, right? So you're younger, right? You can wait, right? It's not a big deal. You can work, you can still work and wait it out, right? And you have this 10,000 sitting around. You say, hey, I'm gonna throw it into Bitcoin, right? So instead of putting your money in a nice car like house, you just put it into Bitcoin, right? Okay. So in the 20 years, what I realized, like, this is the magic. It returns a value of $85 million. So you would invest only 33,000 because you're putting in $100 a month, right? You're DCAing $100 a month, and because you're putting in that $100 a month, that gives you over. You're not just gonna end up with 0.1 Bitcoin. You're gonna end up with way more than that. You're gonna maybe end up with 0.15 Bitcoin, right? Because you're putting in $100 a month. But even that, you still and with that, you're gonna end up with over $85 million, and that's in today's dollars, right? So that's what I'm saying here. And when you look at this chart, right? When you look at this chart over here, you the first 16 years, right? The first 16 years, you still under $1 million, right? You still no, you still under $10 million, right? The first 16 years, okay? You're just getting to like to maybe 10, 12 million, right? In the first 16 years. The biggest growth happens once you get to 17 years, right? Once you get to 17 years, in your 17 years, when you're just touching 22, 20, 25 million. And then look what happened. Once you get to 28 and 29, you already passed 50 million, right? So in 2 years, right, you double what you made in 17 years. Right? In 2 years, you double what you made in 17 years. Right? That's a power. That's a power of compounding. Now, in 3 years, right? In 3 years, you make it that you made it 4x. Right? In 3 years, you made 4 times that 20 million. So that's crazy. That sounds like so hyperbolic and way out there and crazy, but this is what the math looks like. Like the numbers online, just plug in Bitcoin in any calculator that in any compounding calculator and putting in, like, let's say 40%. Okay, let's be conservative, right? Let's put in 35% and see what the numbers gives you. And this is when you realize you're never too late on Bitcoin, right? Like you can get to a million satoshis, right? Can get you so far ahead, right, in life. Right? This is why I'm making this video. Is to show you that you still have a future. You still have hope. You still have time to accumulate. Even just by accumulating like $10 a week, it's still good. Right? The point is not to be at zero, right? So there's no rush in getting in, like putting all your money into Bitcoin right now. It's all about study, right? Learn, right? That's why I create this channel. It's about education, right? So once you understand, you build your conviction, then you will see the potential, right? So anyways, I'm gonna leave it there, guys. Please comment below if you like what I just posted, everything about this video, please could you write down retire, right? Just write down retire, right? So, and then thank you very much for listening. I will see you again in the next video. Thank you guys. I love you all.